So in this video, we're going to learn something called the discriminant of a quadratic. This relates to the quadratic formula. So your objective is that you can state what the discriminant of a quadratic is, and then you can apply the discriminant to solving and graphing a quadratic. So taking a look at all of these, how many solutions does each quadratic have? So looking at this first formula, by looking at the graph, we know, remember solutions are your x-intercepts, that this has two solutions. And if we would actually solve it out, here are our solutions, -1, -5. When I graph this one, we only have one solution. And when I solve it out, I only get -2 as my final answer using the quadratic formula from the previous video. On this one, everything's above the x-axis, so it never touches, and it has no solution. So let's look more closely at the quadratic formula and what's happening and why we're getting 2 versus 1 versus none. And the thing that kind of puts it all together or really causes how many solutions we have is the square root. So notice when we simplify the inside of the square root, we get 16. Well, the square root of 16 is 4. And then from here, the reason we get 2, because we go 16 plus 4 divided by 2, and -16 minus 4 divided by 2, which this is our -1, and this is -5, which is where our two solutions come from. Take a look at this one. When we solve out the inside, we get 0. Well, the square root of 0 is 0. So even if I would add 0 and divide by 2, or subtract 0 and divide by 2, I get the same answer, so I only have one solution. On the last one, when I plug everything into the quadratic formula, I get square root of -11. And we learned in Unit 4 that you cannot take the square root of a negative number because there are no numbers that multiply together that are the same that equals a negative. Well, since you can't take the square root of a negative number, there is no solution. Therefore, we have no x-intercepts. So therefore, the discriminant is the expression inside the radical of the quadratic formula. In the quadratic formula, we would normally see b squared minus 4ac. The b squared minus 4ac is the discriminant. Again, that is under the radical, because this one causes the problems. Because if b squared minus 4ac is positive, like in the first one, turns out to be any positive number, there are going to be two solutions to the equation. Therefore, our parabola is going to have two x-intercepts. Two solutions or two x-intercepts. Because remember, solutions, same thing as x-intercepts, zeros and roots. If it turns out to be 0, so we have the square root of 0. Well, that is like the second one we had here when we solved it. There was only one solution or x-intercept. So that tells me my parabola is only going to touch the x-axis once. And again, both of these could be opening down. I'm just drawing them that they open up. And the last problem we're going to have, if it's any negative number. Alright, so you're taking the square root of a negative, which is we cannot do. There is 0 solutions or no real solutions. And that just means the parabola never crosses the x-axis. Okay, this one only touches once and this one touches twice. So applying the discriminant, which remember is b squared minus 4ac, we can find this information. We can actually find the discriminant, what this actually equals, how many solutions are going to be to this equation, and to sketch a graph. What the discriminant is very useful for when we apply the discriminant is whether or not something is possible. are we going to actually have a solution if you're looking at an example, which when we get to vertical motion, when we're applying quadratics, this will come in handy. So use your discriminant. Again, you need your a, your b, and your c. So we just plug in to b squared minus 4ac. So we have negative 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 4. Well, that's 9. Negative 4 plus 1 times negative 4 is 16 equals 25. So my discriminant is 25. Well, since it is positive from the previous slide, we know there are 2 solutions. Therefore, I can draw my graph, and taking a look at my equation, A is positive, so I know my parabola is going to open up. So we'll draw a parabola that's opening up and just crosses the x-axis in 2 spots. This is a sketch. I do not want an accurate parabola graph. You're just going to sketch it. So now let's take a look at B. So we're going to find our discriminant. So we're going to go b squared, so 2 squared, minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 1. We get 4. Negative 4 times negative 1 times negative 1 is minus 4 equals 0. So my discriminant value is 0. That tells me there is 1 solution. And the reason why we know that, the square root of 0 is just 0. There's only 1 answer. And then that tells me I'm going to have only 1 x-intercept. And take a look at here, my a value is negative. So I'm just going to have my parabola opening down. Taking a look at C, my A, my B, and my C. I'm going to plug into my discriminant, so I have negative 2 squared minus 4 times 2 times 3. I have 4. Negative 4 times 2 times 3. Negative 8 times 3 is negative 24. Gives me negative 20. So my discriminant is negative 20. It is negative. I cannot take a square root of a negative 20. So there are 0 solutions. So that tells me my parabola is not going to cross the x-axis, and my A is 2, so it tells me it's going to open up. And just draw it above it. You do not cross the x-axis. Alright, so let's just do the last 2. So on D, I need to find my discriminant. So 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 2. If you want to try these 2 on your own, stop the video and practice them and see if you can get them without listening to me. And just see if you got the right answer. So we get 4 plus 8, which is 12. It is positive. My discriminant is 12. It's positive, so there's 2 solutions. And that tells me my parabola is going to cross the x-axis twice, and it's going to open up. Again, this graph is just a sketch. On E, it does not, everything is not on one side, so I'm going to move the 5 over. So x squared plus 7x minus 5 equals 0. So solving it, I get 7 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 5. 49 plus 20. So my discriminant turns out to be 69. I have 2 solutions since it's positive. And that means I'm going to have 2 x-intercepts. And my parabola is going to open up because A is positive. Alright, so that's it for this video. So you're trying to find the x-intercepts. How many x-intercepts do you have? Or how many solutions do you have? That's the purpose of the discriminant. And it all is based off that square root. Because if you have positive numbers, we get 2 answers. If you have 0, well, that's just 1. If you have a negative, there is 0 answers. And again, discriminant is telling you how many solutions there are. Just a reminder to do your reflection so you get credit for watching this video.